I said that comment was because, to me, Barack Obama was more like the guy at the cocktail party with the leather jacket on and the cigarette, hanging out, looking down at everyone. That's my read of him, not to take anything away from his wonderful life story, his true dedication to creating the America that he believes we should be. I don't take anything away from him.
But do you think his style might be too didactic for you? Because, I mean, this is a guy who could have been a professor at the University of Chicago, a law professor, and he's a kind of professor-president. So perhaps that's what you're misreading by when you say he thinks he's better than others and knows. Because, I mean, very few people really have... Who has said that? Apart from you.
Well... Harry Reid wrote a biography and talked about how Barack Obama made a very good... Harry Reid, who is the leader of the Democrats in the Senate,
sure.
He wrote a biography about when Barack Obama first came to the Senate, and he made a speech, and he did a wonderful job of making everyone in the room believe that he agreed with all of them. And Harry Reid said, "You did a good job," and Obama tapped him and said, "I've got a gift."
Okay,
it's okay.
So
it's okay, but I like modesty.
Oh, all right. Well, you like... Okay, well, let's... But another thing that's puzzling people, though, is the fact that you decided to back John McCain and Sarah Palin, and yet Barack Obama's views were so much more in tune with Hillary Clinton, your great friend. You campaigned strenuously for her to win the Democrats' nomination as president. You raised lots of money for her. And so people are saying, how come, on policy, you were closer to Hillary Clinton, yet you backed John McCain?
Because I believed that John McCain was more of a bipartisan choice than Barack Obama. Barack Obama had never worked across the aisle on any issue, except there was one, ethics reform, and he worked with John McCain in the early days of his Senate on an ethics bill. When the Democratic caucus said, no, 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 this is going too far, we don't like it, Barack Obama pulled away from McCain and bailed out. And McCain wrote him a letter and said, we were in this. But
he's governing in a more bipartisan spirit, isn't he, Barack Obama, you don't think?
No,
I mean, of
not
course,
at all.
Congress is dominated by the Democrats, but nevertheless.
No, I mean, I think that this is a real problem, and it is a problem that I thought would occur. Barack Obama is doing basically what Karl Rove did with George Bush, who was often called Bush's brain and the evil Republican, because he pretends it's bipartisan in the case of Barack Obama by saying we have some Republican influence. But look at the stimulus bill. It was a Democratic bill, and he picked off 3 Republicans. The cap and trade bill that was signed in the House not too long ago, that was signed with losing 27 Democrats and bringing in 7 Republicans out of 100 some.
Well, at least he brought the Republicans in. We'll come to his policies in a moment.
So he claims he's bipartisan, but he picks people off.
And that's the reason why you don't like him. And you think McCain and Sarah Palin would have been more bipartisan than that, and that's why you backed them?
Well, John McCain backed campaign finance reform with Russ Feingold, the most liberal senator in the Senate. He backed immigration reform with Ted Kennedy. So I believe that the true centrist is John McCain. And in terms...
And you weren't worried about Sarah Palin, his running mate, because a lot of people had reservations about her.
I understand, and my support was for John McCain.
But you said you liked Sarah Palin. You said, I love Sarah Palin.
Well, I'll tell you what I love about Sarah Palin. She's a self-made woman. Nobody helped her get to where she is. And I don't want her to be the victim of either sexism or classism. And so I am always going to defend her on those bases, even if I don't agree with her on policy, and if I don't believe she should be president. I don't get to that.
All right, well, she's resigned as governor of Alaska. She's going to resign at the end of July. Are you going to, if she were supposed to seek the Republican nomination for president in 2012, would you back her?
Oh, impossible to say.
So you might? You might?
No, I don't know what I'll do in 2012. I am hoping, frankly, that Barack Obama comes back to the center, that he puts some fiscal discipline back into this government. My my big problem with Barack Obama is what he is doing to our structural deficits. The deficit he has created is $1.8 trillion. George Bush, we thought, was horrendous, and in fact Barack Obama gave eloquent accusations to George Bush's fiscal irresponsibility. He left a 480
He's not created 1.85
billion.
trillion deficit in 6 months, though.
Yes,
really,
he
inherited a really bad situation. And name me one leading Western country that hasn't suffered tremendously in this global financial crisis.
Oh, everyone has suffered.
Exactly.
Everyone has suffered. But Barack Obama has taken our deficit to 13.2% of GDP.
Because
here in Britain, you are crucifying Gordon Brown for having a 6% of GDP deficit. So what Barack Obama is doing is adding debt that is totally unsustainable. And
he's trying to spend America's way out of trouble. He's trying to stimulate the economy through construction projects to get jobs. I mean, look at the unemployment in America is 9.5%. You cannot blame Barack Obama for trying to spend public money in the United States in order to get America and Americans working again.
3.2 million people have lost their job. The stimulus money is making a very small impact on people's lives right now.
Well, it's still rolling out. The impact hasn't been felt yet. It takes a while for these things to filter through.
It takes a while, but that does not justify putting the stimulus plan into place and then saying, and on top of that, we are going to reform health care and rush into health care reform, which he says will not add to the deficit a dime. Then, when the bipartisan Congressional Budget Office analyzed his initial plan, they said, oops, this is going to cost $1.8 trillion over 10 years and leave 37 million people uninsured and unprotected. So he's not thinking it through.
Well, I mean, I have to tell you, well, I've just finished on the, first of all, on the deficit thing. I mean, top 1% of earners in the United States contribute 40% of the country's 2.6 trillion tax intake. Why not the very rich, somebody like you, for instance, pay more tax to try and help with that deficit?
Well, you just said a variant. 1% pay 40%.
Yeah.
10% of the people in America pay 70% of the total tax intake.
Can't they pay a bit more? Isn't it worth it?
40% of Americans pay nothing. So you could say, okay, let's have everyone just pay more tax if they have more money. But Margaret Thatcher said it best, sooner or later you run out of everybody else's money.